The process of inside out that Naomi describes in this video is based on my book, Soul Side Out. Yay, welcome everybody. My name is Summer Bozo-Hora. We're here today to celebrate Naomi Rozak's graduation from the Empowered Empath Program in this last year. And I just want to acknowledge everyone here for showing up to support her.
You know, the way you've taught, the way you've grown into yourself, like spiritually, and how, you know, and what I love about the work is that, you know, maybe I began by teaching you, and you've certainly come full circle to teach me a lot. So I appreciate it immensely.
You're not allowed to start me crying before I even get to say anything.
Look
at this crowd of people to celebrate you, Naomi. This is incredible.
I know. And when I started working on this Thursday morning, and I cried every day since, because I feel so loved and supported. So I want you all to know that. And I really appreciate everyone who's here, who are a part of this inside out spiritual community of growth and healing and love. And we meet every week to do this inside out meditation and to grow together with vulnerability, to really get into the raw stuff, don't we? And I really appreciate that. Okay, so I'm just going to share my presentation and kind of start from the beginning. I wrote down my little preamble, which is that I don't love talking about me for long periods of time. I don't love a ton of attention. But the more I worked into this, the more I realized I had to be really brave today. And so I'm just going to bare my heart and share some personal things that I don't always share with people. What I share comes from the pages of my journal, from a lifetime of pain and longing, from private sessions with Summer, and thousands of moments of love and support that came as thoughts, signs, and nudges from what I believe is love itself. The whole feeling of my life has been that I've been disconnected from myself, from my core wants, my needs, and my emotions. I always felt shame. I always felt not good enough. And I felt like I was not at home in my body. At the age of 30, my heart led me away from my childhood church. It was a very painful process, relationally and emotionally, and it was psychologically devastating. In the years since then, I did a little bit of healing, but I found myself in emotional crisis about 3 years ago when I came to see Summer, and I felt like I'd kind of advanced as far as I could without really processing this deep wound of disconnection from self. And I didn't even know what it was at that time or what was happening, just that something did not feel right in my body and I needed to do something about it. This is my collage. I was so touched with Audrey's collage that I wanted to do the exact same. And I'm just going to go bit by bit through it and kind of share what each of these images mean. In the upper left here, you see a teardrop. This is from my art journal that I started with Summer right after we started doing sessions together. And what I said was, there's so many tears to get out. Tears of 6 years are behind my smile, the tension I hold, the hip problems, the breath and chest pain, so much grief that I held in. The shame of what they said and what I'd already been taught to believe stole away my ability to grieve loudly and openly. In one of the first sessions with Summer, I saw an image of an arch, a stone arch, and it was about 2/3 completed. Just the last third portion was not complete. And I wasn't familiar with images that come to you in your mind's eye. I didn't know what all this meant. And Summer just sat with me and coached me through it and encouraged me to really examine the images and let the meaning come to me as I continued working with them. In that inside out session, the rocks actually began to crumble, and beyond the arch, I could feel warm sunshine and beautiful air and green grass, and I was pulled to move beyond this arch into exploration and discovery. And then when I took it home and drew it in my journal, more words came to me, and I learned that that arch represented strength and security when I needed it. So that's what God and religion were to me. But in the end, something good for you can also be bad when it's no longer needed. I didn't need to complete the arch because that was not my journey. The arch and religion were not in line with my true knowing, so it was time to expand. And then this is a quote from my art journal. When we lose our map, our real knowledge of the path begins. And this is the point in my life where I began to understand that there was an internal direction for me and I needed to walk it. And there were no signposts or if I had stayed in the church I was in, I would have walked a certain path and it would have been very secure and very visible. I would have just walked it and known what it was. And this time I was walking my own path and there was no way to know what it would be. And I just had to trust and start to walk. And I kept getting the image of this lantern held out just like one step in front of me. And that as I would walk, I would see just one step at a time and the path would become clear, but only one step ahead. Down here, this is hilarious. You know what really grinds my gears? Cracked me up. This represents the image that came to me when I examined some tension I had up all the left side of my body. Summer and I were in a session and the energy was that of people pleasing, of being always worried about what other people were thinking of me and what opinions they had of what I was doing. And it was literally like there were gears in my skull and they were grinding and locked. And I would just feel this pain up through the left side of my head. Even to this day, if I start to think about what other people think, my left shoulder starts to freeze and almost lock in place. And so this is when I really learned that if I was going to grow and heal, I would need to let go. And as we worked on this in healing, that energy really started to shift. And I realized that I could be myself. And that was my way to healing and to freedom. I came to Summer with left eye problems as well. And problems is a weird word, so maybe I shouldn't use that. But my vision would often go blurry. I would sometimes have just tension in a circle around my eye. And I noticed my vision would blur in and out. Sometimes it would blur out in just seconds, or my vision would sharpen and it would come back in seconds. And sometimes it would stay that way for like weeks at a time. And I just had no idea. I just thought, oh, I need new glasses or whatever. And my friend Donnell referred me to Summer. And Summer began to teach me the relationship between stress and eyesight, and in between feelings and eyesight. And over time, and actually what has just come to me lately, I have learned that my left eye is for seeing, and it is for really seeing. If I cut myself off from acknowledging my feelings, or if I live life on too concrete of a level, I am blinding myself to what I sense and to my fullest and freest way of living. When I connect with people deeply, my vision immediately sharpens. So what I began to see as a struggle has become a complete gift, because my eye is my little barometer and my friend that tells me when I'm truly living from the heart and truly living in connection with myself and other people. I'm going to backtrack for just a second. You can see to the left here, there's me doing it, not me, this is somebody on Google doing a cartwheel. And that Summer, when I first began to see Summer, is when I first started to get inklings of wanting to play. And I'll never forget walking to the mailbox one day and something just popped into my mind and said, oh, that grass is so green. Wouldn't it be so cool to do a cartwheel? And I did. And I'm like 35 or 36 years old. I left that stuff behind a really long time ago. And this was just the beginning of starting to develop this relationship with what we call the inner child, the part that wants to play and have fun and enjoy life. I have a stack of books right here next to my eye. When I first started seeing Summer, I kept being guided to put all of my books away, especially self-help books. And now I understand it's because I was reading them thinking I was broken and the information I was finding in the books was going to fix me. And this year, 3 years later, for the first time, I noticed that I can read books of any kind without shame. I have complete acceptance for what I was, you know, when I made parenting mistakes or whatever you want to call them, or not being emotionally aware. I have complete acceptance for that, for how much I knew then and how I'm able to move forward now. I'm whole. I can just choose to take what advice feels good to me in my body. In between seeing Summer, I went back into a semester of university and then into a second semester, but I was starting to feel like university might not be my path, and certainly not 4 to 6 years to a psychology degree. It was very stressful for me. It was stressful to my home and my children. I just felt like I was always pulled to the schoolwork, but couldn't pay attention to the other things that were actually important to me, like my kids. So I had to start to think, what if there's a different way? And right around that time, I started to realize that there was a spirituality outside of religion, and it might actually be for me. Like, this might be my way forward. It felt like I was coming home to something that I'd always known about, but it was something like wild and ancient, and I couldn't put it into words. And in the beginning, I didn't know how different this was going to be from our current educational, especially post-secondary system. I thought it would be about, completing assignments and ticking off the boxes and just completing things, really. And I began to shift from just wanting to tick off the boxes to realizing this was a gateway to a lot of discovery. This was about heart and support and collaboration and vulnerability. And I'd been such a people pleaser and achievement oriented person that it really took me a while to adjust to that thought, but I did adjust. This is that image of, to me, it represents the universe, of sitting there and seeing the whole universe within yourself and feeling connected to it. It helped me connect to the magic of intuition, to know that I could be guided and supported by the universe, including guides. So on the right, you see a picture of a white winged horse. This guide came to me with the name Speed because he shows up really fast whenever I need him, and his purpose is emotional support. And over the last couple of years, it is there whenever I need. I just have to breathe and say, I need some support, and Speed is right there with me. This is bizarre to me. Honestly, I never thought I'd be in this place where these kinds of things would be important to me, but they've really become a part of my journey. And then I went through a real period of soul searching, like, what do I want to do or be? If I leave university, then what do I have, And then I had a conversation with a friend who was really struggling with her daughter. And I realized I have something to offer, which is a heart-centered view of life and people. I have compassion and the ability to listen without judgment. I'm not afraid of the hard stuff. That's where I actually want to be with people. And around that time, the idea started to come to me, and it came out in my journal pages that maybe healing wasn't just about getting good enough to function. I could actually be like emotionally and mentally free, not held back in any way by things that had kept me tied down, even if they were my whole life before that. I hadn't said anything to Summer about this feeling I was having, but when I bought her book, which is the prerequisite to her workshop or her professional training, she inscribed it with the words, "Naomi, let your spark, your spirit, your inner light shine upon all those you touch in your life. You are free." Except I didn't feel free yet. It was just like a dream or a possibility. So this little blue symbol is your throat chakra, and I have traditionally been somebody who could not speak almost ever. I could sit in a room with a ton of people and listen to everybody and not be able to say anything, not know how to speak my viewpoint, not know how to say what I felt or saw. And in this first workshop with Summer was where I was testing out to see if I wanted to train with her professionally, because it came back to me, all the work I'd done with her the previous summer and how meaningful it had been, and how it was also spiritual work. And I was starting to see that I really wanted to be in the places of pain with people and also help them to find a path that was their path, not like a counselor coming in and saying, this is how you should do this, but somebody who just really supports people to find their own strength. So we went into that little inside out meditation in this workshop. There was a workshop participant was helping or mentoring me in it. And I saw a cave in my throat, and a piece of it wanted to come out. And it asked, why has life been so hard for so long? And then immediately I was taken back to the day my dad left when I was 7. He left our family. And as I breathed into that and allowed it to sit there, and of course there were tears and everything, I understood intrinsically that my dad was not leaving because he wanted to leave. He was leaving because he wasn't happy, and he was trying to figure out his own life. He was trying to find his own happiness. Sorry about the dog barking. Then as I stayed in that process, I felt this calm and comfort wash over my body, and I realized that event didn't upset me anymore. And I could actually feel that there were people behind my back. Soft people is what was written down. So such a strange thought. There were soft people behind my back, and they were holding me and supporting me. And then soon I saw the ocean, and I was drawn to it and knew that it wanted to interact with me, and I wanted to be a part of it and everything. It was like this beautiful force that I wanted to join in with. So immediately after that, I started to train with Summer. So I did some reading and stuff, and then I started to work with clients. And as I began to work with them, I started to realize these feelings of inadequacy. If a client was in this meditation and then they had a moment of resistance or feeling stuck, I felt responsible and also afraid and insecure, as if I wasn't good enough. And then I had a fear, if I wasn't good enough, this path or this practice or this ability would actually be taken away from me. So Summer and I did a long session one day in March of last year, and really allowed this energy and this fear to come to the surface. And in the session, I realized I was worried that if I couldn't fulfill my purpose, or I was worried that I wouldn't fulfill my purpose if I couldn't get good enough at doing Inside Out with clients. And more things came to me to help me shift that energy. And one of the things that I discovered, so this tree roots picture, is that energy is like tree roots. It's a massive network, and all of us are rushing along this network. We're connected. And the energy just goes, it just flows and flows and flows. It's so full of movement. And then a client and I, it's almost as if we're holding hands and we're like these two little atoms that are zipping along these energy trails. And if the energy trail changes and goes in another direction, we're just holding hands and sliding along that new direction. I just have to follow the energy. I don't have to be scared that it's about me or I'm going to mess it up. It's about being open to, oh, maybe the trail is going in a different direction than I thought it was. And in the same session, look at this beautiful twister slide. In the same session, the wisdom came to me that I can sense things through my body. And kind of like going down a slide backwards, I can feel the journey and not see it. And the truth was that this slide was actually my journey. Nobody could take it away from me. Nobody can take away that ability to sense things in my body. And I can use that in every area of my life. So, I mean, even if for some reason Inside Out hadn't worked out, my journey was still my own. And that ability to sense things about people and myself would always be with me, as long as I just stayed in my body and allowed that to be there. And like going down a slide backwards, you do it blind, but you can feel the fun of it. And the other thing that came to me was I saw an image of two stumps, and I was sitting on one, and a client was sitting on the one next to me. And I literally heard the words that if I felt stumped, the client and I could just sit down and see what the universe had for us, just be open and sense the path. And as I sat with clients after this, I could really feel the difference, like, oh, I see where the energy wants to go now. I could hear how certain words popped out at me when they said them, or suddenly I could see something happening in my mind's eye. And I would tell the client what I saw, and they would immediately agree that that's what they had been sensing. I remember once a client and I both felt stuck, but my freedom to say, I'm feeling a little bit stuck here. What if we just go back to the last thing you sensed, was so neat, because I would have felt so insecure before that. Or like, you know, if you're a professional, you shouldn't let people know that you don't know what you're talking about or something like that. But the ability to just be with the client and say, hey, let's try this, or what about this, is so freeing, because it's not about what I know, it's just about being open to the journey. And then in a workshop later that year, if we go down to this cave one down on the bottom right, the energy of wanting to stay hidden and safe really came up for me. I knew I wanted, professionally and personally, to be visible and out in the light, but I was scared, and I couldn't find a way out of this metaphorical cave into the light. And the person who was guiding me just prompted me to see what would feel right in that moment. Like what feels right in your body? What do you want to do? If you can't get out of the cave, what would feel good? And suddenly I felt like I was being pushed down to the sand. Like I just wanted to get down as close to the sand as I could, and I could feel the sand becoming warm. And then this feeling of love washed through my body. And I could push my arms like a turtle. I could push out of the cave into the sand that was in the sunlight. And then it brought my attention to the ocean, because the ocean was there and these waves were crashing, and I was guided to know that the ocean is full of love. And I'm like a cheering friend to each person who's healing. They're like surfers on the ocean waves, and I'm just cheering them on, like, ride the wave on the ocean of love. Yeah, keep going, you know. And those two things together, the session with the tree and the slide, and then the one with the cave, moved me so profoundly out of that place of fear to, there's just possibility here. It's an open path, and we just get to see what happens. Then in one of our group sessions to the left here, there's a picture of sun. And in this session, I was feeling like I was an eagle and I could fly above the clouds where the warmth of the sun was. And it's always shining on people, even if they're down below the clouds and they can't see the sun and they're busy and stressed. The sun is always there. And this question is always in my heart about God or source or love. And I looked at the sun and I could feel how warm it was. And I said, what are you? And I felt the words come back to me. I am benevolence. Benevolence is well-meaning, generous, and kind. And this is what I'm only beginning to know. This one's harder to see. You can see there's a metal pole right here. And now this moves back, you know, with that idea about love or source that is benevolent. It moves me back to thoughts of religion and the recovery I needed to do after it. And a couple of times in sessions, I would see myself tied to a metal pole, like a flagpole. And this is what religion was to me. It was something I attached myself to. It kept me secure, but I couldn't explore. I was in pain as a child, teenager, young adult, and I turned to religion for comfort and support. Then one day last spring, I was in Rundle Park. There's this beautiful image of a tree. There were two trees there, and they had such white trunks with these black markings, and it was like my gaze was just captured. I couldn't look away from them, but I didn't understand what it was about. So I just snapped a picture, several pictures actually, and went home, and then we had this group meditation later that evening. And in the meditation, the tree came up immediately, and it was like I was cradled in the arch of these two branches. My attention was really drawn to this arch part. I was held there, and I was drawn to the split down at the bottom. First, actually, sorry, it brought back to mind the incomplete arch that had been in my session from a year and a half before that. This tree had to split. It had to decide where to grow and couldn't. And it went both ways, so it could have a variety of experiences and broaden its perspective, the same way I did with both religion and spirituality. Religion taught me the intimacy of a relationship with God, so I got to experience all of this along one side. And spirituality taught me openness, and I got to experience and will experience for the rest of my life what's on the other side. And in the session, I could feel that energy of duality of the two paths just mixing and mixing inside of me. And even like the logical and emotional side, I could feel those just mixing into this really integrated feeling. At the end of the session, I could see all the trees were like hands reaching out of the earth, and there was energy held in all of them. And all the perspectives of the world were creating energy together. This was hugely healing. I understood that my dual paths were gifted to me to deeply understand my own life, as if I had made a choice, and both paths were valid choices. And that through this broader perspective, I can better love and serve myself, as well as everyone who comes across my path. And then this next image is a very strong one that's come to me several times. Sometimes I see it in the dark. sometimes during the day. Sometimes it's like a cold statue that then becomes colorful. She represents so much to me. It's a Statue of Liberty, and she proclaims liberty and justice for all, aka freedom. The statue has a watch station at the top, and what came to me through different inside out sessions was that I personally find freedom in being able to observe a situation and to say what I see. This is a gift I offer the world, and also where I find fulfillment. As I observe what I see in others' experience, they realize that their inner experience is validated, and they can trust enough to take another step within that energy field or that ocean of love. I'm going to share some words that came to me at the end of the session, and this was the same session where the tree and the slide were, and it was so profound and moving. The understanding I have is that as I free myself, I free other people. And the words that I said were, I see freedom. I see freedom everywhere. I see that all people can go free. I've always seen it. That's what I'm here to tell them. Freedom is meant for them. Everyone gets to have it. It's my gift. I get to say what I see, and I see possibility. This is my profound offering to the world. I don't know when and how it will all come, but I know that in all the work that I do, this is the message that I want people to know. They get to go free too. I put a big, beautiful red heart up here because it reminds me that everything I do is heart-centered. In one of my journals, I wrote, the body and the heart know the direction, and they just have to convince the mind. Through this work, I've been reminded once again that the eyes of the heart see the truth. It is my honor to see people through the eyes of the heart and to walk forward in trust, following my own heart, because this journey has taught me that I can trust it. And just moving down to the left here, there's a picture of this lady with her long, dangly feather earrings. A year ago, I had a dream. I was a gorgeous woman with dark, wavy hair, long gold and feather earrings, and a white satin wedding dress with black beading. I felt wild, confident, strong, and fearless. It was like the best, strongest version of me had shown up, and I'm here for it, even as I'm growing into her confidence. And then down here in the left, sorry, I'm going to skip back a second. I just put a picture of Boo in here. This is the beautiful dog that came to us this year and has been so profound in opening my heart to play. As we play, I've realized that this year I've started to belly laugh out of nowhere, which is like, in my whole life, it would have happened a couple times a year. And now it happens many times a week where you just laugh because the dog doesn't like the cooked broccoli you offered him and spits it out, you know, and I'll just start laughing and realize that so much joy has come into my life. I want to end on this heart because I think that's what completes the cycle of healing for me for right now. This is a self-love heart. In the workshop we did last week, I learned that I can be at peace with every aspect of myself. I can fully accept each thought, emotion, circumstance, if I will just allow it into my awareness and welcome it. I don't have to blind myself or become insensitive in any way. I can be fully at home in myself. I'm going to stop sharing and just go back and just share a couple more thoughts if I can. As I started working on this, the song Never Enough, you might have heard it. It's this big, ballad about how you can try so hard and all the things that you could gain could still never be enough. And the words of the chorus are, all the shine of 1,000 spotlights, all the stars we steal from the night sky will never be enough, never be enough. Towers of gold are still too little. These hands could hold the world, but it'll never be enough. Never be enough. And from the time I was a little girl, the life I had was never enough. I knew there was more out there for me, and I have wanted to be completely whole. It seems silly to talk about a professional program because what has been given to me is the whole world that I wanted, which was to be enough for myself. And I can truly say that at long last, I am enough. And I always was. With that said, I still have to say a few words, because what I've learned about this journey is that this is a journey to your own heart. Keep going. There are things you cannot even dream of waiting for you as you keep following your heart and opening up to trust our benevolent universe. I grew this year. The biggest thing that grew was my heart. I did grow in concrete, tangible ways. I wrote things and learned to do practical business stuff and to get out of my comfort zone. But it was my inner experience and understanding that grew the most. I want to take a moment to thank Summer for being a woman who's in touch with her soul in business, with vulnerability. She gave me room to grow and to express my needs and learn to communicate them. She took honest feedback with such grace and acceptance, just there every step of the way. Summer is the first professional I've known to cry with me in a session. From the very first day, she feels it all and she's there. And I don't think I could ask for a more appropriate mentor in any way.
I don't know, did you want to open it up, Naomi, to hear how you affected people, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm okay for that. If people, like, nobody has to feel that they need to, but if somebody would like to say something, I'm okay to hear that.
I've been very, very honored to just be any part of the journey that you've been on, to watch it, witness the person you are now is so different from that person that I first met. For people who know you and spend time with you, you can witness the changes in how you present yourself. But one of the things that, as a woman in society at all, visual presentation is a big part of the way we show up. And the physical changes in you. You are, I swear, 10 years younger than when I first met you. And it's just amazing how this transformation has been whole body and soul with you. And thank you for letting me witness even a small part of this.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm really honored.
Thank you all. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you all for being a witness for today and for Naomi's journey of the last 6 years of your life. And thank you for sharing.
Thank you. I really just appreciate everyone being here. And it's like the more I connect with myself, the more these beautiful beings that I can connect with also come alongside me. And they have taught me and supported me and cried with me and listened. And I don't even have the words to express how I feel about that.
You can follow Naomi or myself on Instagram or in the wonderful new platform called Clubhouse, where you actually engage in daily conversations and you can just jump right in anytime you feel you need support or more information to help you along your journey. And you can download a PDF or audio version of the book with the link below.